At the age of 27, Lyman Bostock had his whole life in front of him. He was going to be a great star in Major League Baseball. Had some really solid years for the Angels and the Twins. A lot of people put him in the same category as like a Cecil Cooper or Larry Heisel or Reggie Smith. A great representative for his home region, a great representative for the black baseball athlete of his era. But due to circumstances beyond his control, he ended up dead well before his time, and we still mourn him every day because you look at the great players that went through Minnesota in the 80s and California in the 70s and 80s. He could have easily been a superstar with those squads. He was that close to being a marquee player. Now, Lyman Bostock Jr., the son of a Negro League star, who his father was 16 years in the Negro Leagues as a first baseman, really motivated his son to be the best he could be in his chosen sport. He played Major League Baseball for 4 seasons as an outfielder for the Twins, 75 to 77, and the Angels in 78. He had a lifetime average of 311 and batted left-handed and true right-handed. Bostock was unfortunately shot and killed as a passenger in a vehicle in his hometown of Gary, Indiana on September 23rd, 78, just hours after playing against the White Sox early in the day. His shooter was eventually sentenced to a psychiatric hospital and released after 7 months. After the shooter's release, Indiana legislators introduced the guilty but mentally ill plea so that mentally ill people would serve prison time after being released from an inpatient mental health treatment. The circumstances will be presented here just as a public service, and I'm sorry that we have to talk about it, but it is what it is. I'm not a person that's going to not tell you the facts. I'm an old-fashioned journalist. Facts are important to be heard, and I'm not going to mention trigger warnings and stuff because it is what it is. And 46 years ago, it feels just as bad as me as a sports fan. I watched the news the night he was murdered. Boys, oh boys, that was a rotten night in my house. We loved him as an athlete. Now, born in Birmingham, Alabama, he was the son of Andy Pearl of Bostock and, of course, Lyman Sr. Now, Pearl and Bostock Sr. split when Bostock was a young child, with Pearl relocating with his son first to Gary, Indiana, in 54, and in 58 the two again relocated, this time to LA. The younger Bostock remained estranged from his father pretty well for the remainder of his life. There was occasions where they would meet up in public, feeling that his father had abandoned him, and that's basically what the story is of that unfortunate situation. Now, at one point, according to legend, during his youth, Bostock's baseball glove was stolen. With his mother unable to afford to purchase another, he had to use a glove given to him by a friend of the family. However, the donated glove was for left-handed fielders only. Bostock's discomfort in catching fly balls with the hand he was unaccustomed to using led him to begin making basket catches at that time, which was kind of mimicked by Ricky Henderson. The habit stayed with him, and he frequently made basket catches of fly balls for the remainder of his life. When I was 8, my mother bought me my first glove, he recalled, but someone stole it the next day. My mother wasn't about to buy me another one, but a friend of hers at work gave her a replacement. Unfortunately, it was a left-hander's model, and I'm right-handed. Since it was the only glove I had to use it. It was the only way I could catch the ball, and became a habit, and I still have it. Now, he played baseball at Manual Arts High School in L.A., then attended San Fernando Valley State College, which is now CSU Northbridge, or CSUN. It was there where he met Univen Brooks, who would become his wife. Bostock did not play baseball during his first 2 years of college, choosing instead to become involved in student activism. Nonetheless, he was selected in the 70 amateur draft by the Cardinals. What you saw is what you got from Lyman, said Bob Heigert, Bostock's college coach at Cal State Northbridge. There was nothing hidden about Lyman. He wore his heart on his sleeve. Now, Bostock chose not to sign with the Cardinals, staying in college and began playing baseball for Coach Egert and the Matadors. He was an all-conference player in the California Collegiate Athletic Association in both of his seasons at San Fernando, hitting .344 as a junior and .296 as a senior, leading the Matadors to a second-place finish at the Division II College World Series in '72. He was selected by the Twins in the 26th round, 596th overall, of the 72 amateur draft and decided to turn pro, just 15 credits short of finishing his bachelor's degree. Now, his minor league stops were pretty well between 72 and 74. He was with the Class A Charlotte Twins in 72, the Class AA Orlando Twins in 73, and the Class AAA Tacoma Twins in 74. His batting averages were 294, 313, and 333, respectively. In 75, he was hitting 391 after 22 games and 92 at-bats with Tacoma when the Minnesota Twins called him up. Now, the Twins at the time, ladies and gentlemen, were getting a lot of coverage in Canada. And some of the West Coast Canadian channels mentioned heavily him being called up. He saw him as an adjunct to Rod Carew. Now, promoted to the major leagues in April 75, he made his first appearance on April 8th, where he was 1 for 4 with 2 walks and 3 runs scored, an 11-4 Twins win over the Rangers. For the season, he batted 282 in 98 games for the Twins and 391 in 22 games for Tacoma. Now, a fine defensive center fielder, he finished fourth in the tight American League batting race in 76, his first full season in the majors. He hit 323, finishing behind, get this, George Brett and Hal McRae, 333 to 332, and teammate Rod Carew, 331. Bostock also hit for the cycle on July 24th in a 17-2 win, Twins win over the Chicago White Sox. 77. Bostock's 336 batting average was second only to the 338 of Carew. On May 25th, Bostock collected 12 putouts in the second game of a doubleheader against the Boston Red Sox, tying the major league mark for putouts by an outfielder, which has been set by Earl Clark of the Boston Braves in 29, and was equaled by the great Jacoby Ellsbury in 2009 for the Red Sox. Bostock had a total of 17 putouts in the doubleheader, which set an American League record for outfielders. Now, with California in 78, it was very interesting. After the 77 season ended, Bostock became one of baseball's earliest big money free agents and signed with the Angels. The Angels were signing tons of free agents, and he signed Carew after the big trade. Now, this was owned by Gene Autry. Bostock had made $20,000 with the Twins at 77, but signed, get this, a $2.3 million 6-year contract with the Angels. The Twins, Padres, and Yankees had all tried to sign Bostock. Almost immediately, he donated $10,000 to a church in his native Birmingham to rebuild its Sunday school. Now, the 78 season started off poorly for Bostock. He batted 150 for the month of April. He then met with the team's management and attempted to return his April salary, saying he had not earned it. The team refused, so Bostock announced he would donate his April salary to charity. He came into my office and told me he was reluctant to take his salary. Angels GM Buzzy Bavasi recalled. He said, "I'm not doing my job, but I told him I won't let you do that." And he says, "Why not?" So I told him, "What if you hit 600 next month? You're sure as hell not getting any more money out of me." Thousands of requests came in for the money, and Bostock reviewed each one of them, trying to determine who needed it the most. After his poor April, he rebounded by hitting 404 in June and was hitting 296 by the time September rolled around. Now, as the 78 season neared its conclusion, Bostock was leading the Angels in batting. With a week remaining in the season, he went 2 for 4 with a walk in his final game, a Saturday afternoon contest against the White Sox in Chicago, to raise his season average to almost 300. Now, in his 4-season career, he was 311, 365 on base, 23 homers, 102 doubles, 30 triples, 45 stolen bases, and 250 runs batted in during 526 games. A contact hitter, he had 171 career walks against 174 career strikeouts and a .988 fielding percentage, playing all 3 outfield positions with the majority of center field. Now, following the contests at Comiskey Park, as he regularly did when in Chicago, he visited his uncle Thomas Turner in nearby Gary. After eating a meal with a group of relatives at Turner's home, Bostock and his uncle went to visit Joan Hawkins, a woman whom Bostock had tutored as a teenager, but had not seen for several years. After the visit, Turner agreed to give Hawkins and her sister Barbara Smith a ride to her cousin's house. He drove his vehicle with Hawkins seated in the front passenger seat. Bostock and Barbara Smith rode in the vehicle's backseat. Now, Barbara Smith had been living with Hawkins while estranged from her husband, one Leonard Smith. Unbeknownst to the group, Leonard Smith was outside Hawkins' home in his car and observed the group's departure in Turner's car. According to Leonard Smith, his wife was frequently unfaithful to him, and though he did not know Bostock, He later said upon seeing Bostock get in the backseat of Turner's vehicle with his wife, he concluded incorrectly that the two were having an affair. Now, at 10:40 p.m., as Turner's vehicle was stopped at a traffic signal at the intersection of 5th and Jackson, Leonard Smith's car pulled up alongside him. Leonard Smith leaned out of the vehicle and fired one round from a .410 caliber shotgun in the back seat of Turner's car, where Bostock and Barbara Smith were seated. Leonard Smith said that his strange wife was his only intended target. However, Bostock was seated between Barbara Smith and the position from which Leonard Smith was firing. Instead of striking her, the shot struck Bostock squarely in the right temple. At age 27, he died 2 hours later at Gary Hospital. Barbara Smith was hospitalized in fair condition with pellet wounds to her face. Now, Smith was tried twice for murder, with his lawyers arguing that Barbara Smith's alleged infidelity had driven him insane. The first trial resulted in a hung jury. In the second trial, Smith was found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed for treatment to Logansport State Hospital. Within 7 months, he was deemed no longer mentally ill by a psychiatrist and released. Including his time in jail awaiting and during trial, his time in custody amounted to less than 2 years. In the aftermath of Smith's case, the legislature in Indiana had changed the state's insanity laws. After the change, a person found to be insane at the time of the commission of a crime could still be found legally guilty and thus could be sent to prison if and when he or she was released into psychiatric treatment. Now, Leonard Smith eventually returned to Gary, where he resided for the remainder of his life, moving in his years later a high-rise apartment building for senior citizens. After his 1980 release from custody, he never again ran afoul of the law and he declined all requests to come out publicly about the killing of Bostock. In 2010, he died of natural causes at age 64. Now, Bostock is interred in the Inglewood Park Cemetery in Inglewood, California. There were never enough hours in a day for Lyman, said Angels teammate Bobby Grich. We called him Jibber Jabber because he was always talking. Everyone was crazy about him because he was so outgoing and friendly, always up, always looking on the bright side. Now, ironically, Rod Carew probably made the most important tribute to him. He once said, Lyman Bostock was my teammate on the Twins for 3 years. I knew he was very close to an uncle who lived in Gary. Lyman often visited him after games against the White Sox. How senseless, how horrible. I still can't believe it happened. Everyone really liked Lyman. When we played the Angels in '78, he sent a bat boy over to me with a newspaper. The Sporting News photographed himself wearing sunglasses with dollar signs in the lenses. Above the picture, Lyman had written, Rod, I need help. His average was around 200. So I watched him in the game. I noticed he was lunging at pitchers. He was too anxious. His swing wasn't smooth as it normally is. I told him I thought he was trying to hit the ball into holes between fielders instead of swinging with the pitch, which Guru would do, of course. No one can manipulate a bat so well that he can't consistently hit the ball into holes. I don't know if I helped out or not, but Lyman picked up and it was batting .296 when he passed. Now, in his eulogy and at the funeral of Bostock, Angels teammate Ken Brett, the brother of George Brett, said, we called him Jibber Jabber because he enlivened every clubhouse scene, chasing tension, drawing laughter in the darkest hours of defeat. When winning wasn't in the plan, Lyman knew the sun would come up the next morning. There's only one consolation. We're all better persons for having him touch our lives. And I'm a better understander of sports because we have lost, like in '74 losing Tim Horton, I was dead by misadventure. But this guy was just wrong place, wrong time. So I think security measures have been better, and I think most athletes take better care of themselves regarding their outlying activities. I hope so. Anyway, we haven't had a murder like this of a Major League Baseball player since, and that's 46 years ago. Now, the Angels, in tribute to Lyman, wore a black armband in memory of him for the remainder of the '78 season. In addition, a memorial scholarship fund was commissioned in his name and is annually awarded to a needy CSUN student athlete. Now, in '81, Bostock became the first inductee in the CSU Northridge Matadors Hall of Fame. Now, the stats for Bostock are quite interesting. He had broken again with the Twins with a .282 average, but he was almost at the 200 hit mark in 1977 if he would have played one more game. That year was just tremendous, ladies and gentlemen. 104 runs scored, 199. 77 was a glorious year for the hitter. 199 hits, 36 doubles, 12 triples, 14 home runs. So he had 62 extra base hits, 90 RBIs, 16 stolen bases, 51 bases on ball. A good, and for some reason he was only 27th in the MVP voting. And the year of his passing in '78, he was 23rd. Now, the only problem he had was grounding into double plays because he would make such heavy contact. But in the three major seasons he played, again, he was averaging the about 10 home runs, 80 RBIs, 15 stolen bases, 192 hits. So I mean, he could have done everything in sports. And you got to understand the momentum of California towards 79 and 82 and 86 in 3 years. If he would have stayed with California, obviously, they would have done better against the Orioles in '79, against the Brewers in '82, and the Red Sox in '86. So did that cost California at least one World Series? Well, I mean, woulda, shoulda, coulda. I mean, it's all a matter of conjecture. But Bostock had a very, like I said, when I was growing up, again, like I just said, you got Larry Heisel, you got Reggie Smith, you got Cecil Cooper, 6'1", 180, a perfect size for a player. And again, losing him at age 27, there's no words can say. When we were kids, number 10 was important, Gil Fleur, and we saw Lyman Bostock. Like number 10 was like number 9 or number 4. These are the key numbers, and we figured, hey, he's going to be a superstar. And one person, my dad made an interesting comment. He said, if you take Rod Carew and Lyman Bostock and George Brett together, it's the same copy, where they have occasional power, they have stolen base, they have speed, they're going to hit for average, and it's going to be hard to stop them from hitting 300. Lyman was still learning, but then later on we had Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs, like the yearly big hitters. But at the time, to have Brett and him and Carew, it was just like I said, just tremendous. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our tribute podcast to athletes who left before the time, let us know to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And to all the Twins and Angel fans out there, people out there that are not fans of the Twins and Angels, we do miss him because he was going to be good for baseball. And, he wanted to just do the right thing, and he didn't have a chance to do it. That's tragedies do happen. Thanks for listening. Bye.